You're an Aries, and the first thing anyone ever notices about you is your fire. Not the gentle warmth kind, the kind that moves fast, speaks sharp, and doesn't wait for approval. You were born to initiate, to lead, to break cycles. But what nobody talks about is what that actually feels like. Because carrying this much forward-moving energy in a world that constantly tells you to slow down, it's exhausting, it's frustrating, and deep down, it's lonely. See, people think Aries is confident, loud, even reckless. And yeah, you can be. You've learned how to act without hesitation. You've learned how to charge into new territory when everyone else is scared to move. But they don't understand that most of that boldness. It's instinct. It's survival. It's the way you've learned to handle disappointment, silence, abandonment. You don't wait around for someone to fix it. You move. You build. You fight. But the truth is, you weren't born tough. You became tough because life didn't give you another option. From early on, you learned that stillness didn't feel safe. Maybe you were overlooked unless you made noise. Maybe you felt like love had to be earned by doing, by being impressive, exciting, useful. So you became action. You became movement. You started showing up as energy before emotion. You learned to be the spark in other people's lives, but never quite figured out how to hold your own stillness without guilt. And now, you're tired. Not in a dramatic way, but in that deep, worn-out way that comes from always being on. You're constantly scanning for what's next, what's wrong, what needs fixing. You hate wasting time. You hate waiting. You hate feeling like someone else is in control of your pace. But what's underneath that is fear. Fear that if you stop moving, everything might collapse. Fear that if you actually slow down, you'll feel everything you've been running from. Because Aries isn't fearless. Aries is scared of stillness, of being forgotten, of feeling stuck. And when you start to feel stuck, you explode. You either burn it all down or you burn yourself out trying to fix it. And people don't see it coming because you've mastered the art of the quick rebound. You crash in silence, you cry fast, wipe your face, and move again before anyone even notices you are hurting. You don't ask for help. You hate being seen as weak. You hate being too emotional. So instead, you bottle it. You get sharp, you get loud, or you go completely silent. Either way, nobody really sees what's going on underneath unless they're paying attention. And most people aren't. You've been misunderstood so many times, you've stopped trying to explain. You just keep going. But you don't actually want to always be the strong one. You want someone to slow you down, not control you, but match your motion without making you earn love through performance. You want space to breathe without having to ask for it. You want to feel safe without having to fight for it. But you've been moving so fast for so long that sometimes you don't even know what safety feels like anymore. That's the part no one sees. You're not just energy. You're not just fire. You're a soul that's been in overdrive for so long, you forgot what rest even feels like. But that rest, that's where the real version of you lives. Not the hustler, not the fighter. The you that just wants to feel held for once, not managed, not fixed, not redirected, just seen. Here's your flaw, the one nobody really calls out because you mask it too well. You don't know how to stay. Not when you're triggered. Not when you feel unsafe. Not when the moment doesn't give you the response you expect. Your flaw isn't that you're too much. It's that you leave too fast, mentally, emotionally, physically, the second you don't feel seen. You don't always ghost, but you disconnect. You start building exits in your head before the conversation is even over. You prep for war over silence. You armor up. Because to you, emotional stillness doesn't mean peace. It means danger. It means someone's withdrawing. It means rejection. It means something's being left unsaid, and you've been down that road before. So instead of asking what's wrong, you push, you challenge, you speak too soon, or worse, you disappear so they don't get the chance to do it first. You don't trust easily. Not because you're closed off, but because you've been let down right when you started opening up. You've had people promise consistency and give you chaos. You've had people admire your fire but fumble your heart. So now you don't wait around. You test people. You pull back. You throw your energy out fast to see who can keep up. And the moment they hesitate, you label them weak, disloyal, fake, or not for you. Not because they were, but because you'd rather feel powerful leaving than be left wondering if you were ever really enough. But here's the truth. That fire you have, it covers a heart that's actually way more sensitive than anyone realizes. You want to be chosen. You want to be kept. You want to feel so safe that you don't have to constantly prove why you deserve to stay. But instead of asking for that, you perform. You lead. You impress. And then you silently resent people for not choosing the real you, the version underneath the drive. This is where you sabotage love. You move so fast, nobody gets the chance to meet your core. You love with force, with loyalty, with motion. But you don't always allow slowness. And when someone doesn't immediately match your rhythm, you call it incompatibility, when sometimes it's just unfamiliar safety. Someone who's not trying to control you. Someone who's just still and wants you to meet them there. But stillness scares you. Because it requires trust. It requires surrender. And surrender is the opposite of how you've learned to survive. Aries, you don't fall apart easily. You erupt. You react, and then later, you quietly wish you would have just waited, just listened, just let the feeling pass before you set the fire. Because underneath it all, you don't want chaos. You want clarity. You want to stop repeating the same pattern of intensity, explosion, regret. You want to stay. You just don't always know how. That's where your healing begins. When you stop making being understood your responsibility, when you stop forcing connection and start recognizing who naturally gets it, when you stop giving the world your loudest energy first and start protecting your quietest needs. Your glow-up doesn't start with more motion. It starts when you finally pause, when you stop reacting to everything like it's an attack, when you breathe before the text. Sit through the silence. Ask what's happening without assuming betrayal. That's when it changes. That's when your presence shifts. That's when people finally feel the real you, not just the drive, but the depth. That's when your relationships get easier, cleaner, truer. Because now you're not choosing from panic, you're choosing from peace. And when Aries leads from peace, you don't just attract more love, you become it. Let's talk about time, and how it either becomes your weapon or your weakness. Because Aries doesn't do wait. You're wired to leap first and figure it out on the way down. You thrive on motion, on change, on that gut-level push to go after what you want while everyone else is still asking permission. And when it works, you win fast. But when it doesn't, you crash just as hard. Because Aries isn't immune to burnout. You're just good at pretending you're fine while it's happening. Here's the thing. You live in motion, but that motion needs rhythm. Direction timing. That's why this 9-year personal cycle isn't just woo-woo timing theory. It's structure. It's pattern. It's the container your fire's been missing. Let's break it down. To find your personal year, take your birth month and day and add it to the current year. Say you were born April 5th, 2006, and it's 2025. 4 plus 5 plus 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 5 equals 18. 1 plus 8 equals 9. That would make 2025 a personal year 9, a year of completion. Here's how the full cycle flows so it makes sense. Year 1 is the start over. Launch something new. Clean energy. Clean direction. You don't wait. You initiate. This year moves fast, so don't sleep on ideas that hit strong. Year 2 slows down. Relationship tests. Emotional recalibration. You'll feel tension here if you don't give space to reflect before reacting. Year 3 brings expansion, visibility, creative power. If you don't express yourself in this year, you'll feel stifled. If you do, you start building momentum. Year 4 is about work, systems, discipline. This is where Aries either levels up or gets distracted. It's not fast, but it's foundational. The real ones don't skip this. Year 5 brings change, breakthroughs, shifts. This is a move-fast year, but only if your foundation was built last year. If not, it'll feel chaotic. Year 6 is responsibility, love decisions, big emotional commitments. This year asks you to get clear about who you're building with and who's just noise. Year 7 is slow, quiet, almost spiritual. You won't be in the spotlight, and that's on purpose. This year wants you inward, not outward. Year 8 is power, results, leadership. This is your money year. It's big, but it also requires emotional maturity or you'll fumble the blessing. Year 9 is endings, release. You let go here, not out of failure, but out of evolution. Whatever doesn't serve your next chapter dies. Then it all resets. Year 1, again, new cycle, new identity. So where are you in 2025? If you're in year 1, you're reborn. Go all in, start the thing, launch the brand, say yes to the version of you that's been building behind the scenes. This is your green light. If you're in year 9, you're closing a chapter. It's not about pushing forward, it's about making peace with what's done. If you try to launch big in a 9-year, it'll feel forced. Let go now so you can rise in 2026. If you're in year 4 or 7, you're in the slow phase. One demands structure, the other demands silence. Aries hates both, but they're vital. These years are about grounding before the next expansion. If you're in year 5, it's glow-up energy. But don't move just to move. Move where your truth leads. Everything's shifting. Ride the wave or get swept by it. And here's the warning. Aries tends to burn out their best years trying to do everything at once. You chase every idea, every path, every maybe, and by the end, you've done a lot, but built very little. This year wants alignment, not chaos, not control, not constant conflict. Just clear moves in the direction of your actual calling. Avoid starting things just to avoid stillness. Avoid jumping into relationships without emotional clarity. Avoid blowing up opportunities because they don't move fast enough. Avoid mistaking anxiety for intuition. Focus on routine that protects your nervous system. Commit to one big thing instead of 5 scattered ones. Learn how to express frustration without burning bridges. Use your fire to build, not just break. Because Aries, you don't need to slow down. You need to stop sprinting in circles. You're not behind. You're not late. You're just being asked to finally move in rhythm with yourself. And when that happens, your growth doesn't just happen fast. It happens for real. So what happens if you don't evolve? If you keep sprinting through life without pausing for reflection? If you keep mistaking speed for success, motion for purpose, chaos for power? If you keep reacting first and regretting later? You'll keep winning the short-term battles, but you'll lose the deeper war with yourself. You'll keep building things fast, then burning them down when they don't move how you want. You'll keep starting relationships full of intensity, only to sabotage them the moment the silence starts to feel unfamiliar. You'll keep chasing validation through action, but still feel empty even when people are cheering. Because Aries, you weren't meant to burn forever. You were meant to lead. And true leadership isn't about force, it's about presence. If you keep moving without pausing, you'll become someone who always needs the next thing, the next idea, the next obsession, the next escape. And every time something slows you down, you'll treat it like failure, when really, it was your soul asking for a moment to breathe. That's the loop. That's the crash you keep repeating. And it's not because you're weak. It's because you've learned to associate stillness with powerlessness. But here's what changes when you finally evolve. You stop reacting. You start responding. You stop letting your fire lead every conversation. You start letting your awareness lead instead. You begin to feel your anger before it explodes. You notice your triggers without immediately acting on them. You start to realize that not every delay is rejection, and not every pause is betrayal. You begin to trust slow, to honor timing, to sit in discomfort without trying to burn your way out of it. And that's when everything shifts. Your energy becomes sharper, not because you're louder, but because you're clearer. People feel you differently. You don't need to over-explain, over-prove, or over-deliver. Your presence speaks before you do. And in love, you stop chasing people who only want your excitement, but can't handle your depth. You stop rushing into connections that feel good on day 1, but leave you doubting yourself by day 10. You stop apologizing for needing space and support at the same time. You attract people who don't flinch when you soften. People who don't feel threatened when you lead. People who love your strength, but also know how to love you when you're tired of being strong. Because Aries, you're not meant to be a flame that always burns. You're meant to be a force that sustains. Your true power shows when you stay calm in the moments you used to explode. When you let your vision guide you, not just your reactions. When you finally realize that peace doesn't mean you've lost your edge. It means you've mastered it. You don't need to prove yourself to people who never had the range to see you clearly. You don't need to sprint through healing just to feel productive. You don't need to start over every time the road gets quiet. You just need to stop abandoning yourself when things don't go your way. You were born to lead, but the version of you that leads best doesn't need the whole world to agree. They just need to stay centered, no matter who shows up or who doesn't. This is your next level. It's not louder. It's not faster. It's truer. You're an Aries. The fire was never the problem. You just had to stop burning yourself down to keep it lit.